Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the LSU Sports Insider Postgame Show. I'm Zach Ewing, here live at Alex Box Stadium, almost midnight, 10 minutes to go on this Saturday, and what a Saturday it was for the Tigers of LSU. On the baseball diamond, they beat Dallas Baptist 12-0 and advanced to the regional final tomorrow night, where they will play either Dallas Baptist again or Little Rock again, the team that they beat 7-0 on Friday night to begin this Baton Rouge Regional. We will be joined shortly by Reed Darcy and Scott Rabelais, a couple of our advocate writers here. Koki Riley is hanging around too. He may have some writing to do. He may not stop by, but we will be with you for the next 20 minutes or so going through this one. A dominant performance from the Tigers. They came into this regional as heavy favorites. It looked like they got a friendly draw. So far, it has played out exactly that way. The pitching has been utterly dominant. 7 2/3 shutout innings from Anthony Ianson on Friday night. 7 shutout innings from Cade Anderson tonight against DBU. A tougher opponent, a team LSU played earlier in the year, beat them 7-3, but they didn't even need that tonight. 12-0. And it looks like Reed Darcy is here. Want to let you know as he joins that this postgame show is brought to you by Our Lady of the Lake Health, the official championship healthcare provider of LSU athletics. And happy to be joined now by Reed.
Hey, Zach.
We're roughing it tonight. No producers are willing to stay up for an 11:50 p.m. show, so it's just us out here.
Yeah, the weather, got a late start, late finish last night, and another late one tonight. So the weather kind of did that to us back-to-back nights, I guess.
And LSU plays at 8 again tomorrow night. So
yeah,
fun times. We'll be back again late tomorrow night with another post-game show. But, the headline here, LSU in the regional final for the, I guess, fourth straight year, all 4 years under Jay Johnson. They've made it at least this far. Of course, 2 years ago, they made it a lot farther all the way to Omaha and winning the national championship. And if you could write a script for this LSU team for the first two nights, this is pretty much what Jay Johnson would have come up with. I mean, dominant pitching, taking the lead in the first inning both nights, not having to use any of your key bullpen guys, just absolutely perfect what he would have drawn up.
Yeah, couldn't have gotten off to a much better start. I don't know if you mentioned the stat earlier, but Rab had it, first time LSU's ever begun a regional or a super regional with back-to-back shutouts of two different teams. So I think that speaks to exactly how dominant the pitching was, right? We've talked all season about LSU's, 1-2 pitching punch with Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson. Jay Johnson decided to flip-flop those two this weekend, and we can get into that, but those two were just electric, and they were at their best, and they shut down two pretty decent offensive teams, and I think that was really impressive and really everything LSU needed to get through this regional and get one win away from a super.
Yeah, I mean, like you can say, okay, Anthony Ianson shut out Little Rock. They came in with a losing record and all these things. They showed they can hit the ball a little bit today. 22 runs against Rhode Island earlier today. So that team can hit a little bit. Dallas Baptist can hit a little bit. And Cade Anderson was magnificent tonight. 7 innings, shutout, 4 hits. He had 2 walks, 11 strikeouts, just blowing guys away.
Yeah, the two starters combined, they threw 14 2/3 innings. They had 18 strikeouts. They only allowed 9 hits. Like we mentioned, 0 earned runs, and they only walked 3 batters. So, it doesn't get, much better than that. That's going to get you through a regional pretty much every time. And, you mentioned what Little Rock did today. Dallas Baptist, again, they haven't faced the level of pitching that they did tonight, but they're still top 15 in the country, I believe, in both slugging percentage and home runs. So they are a team that can hit for power, that likes to swing for the fences, that can go yard on you. And LSU didn't really let them get any extra base hits. I think they had 4 hits today or something.
Yeah, just 4 hits. I think they were all singles.
4 hits, all singles. Yeah. So, it's the pitching. It's just the pitching's on a different level this year, I think.
As far as LSU's offense, again, kind of typical for them. They had 1 home run, and it was Chris Stanfield, of all people, who is the one regular player they have who didn't have a home run all year. He went Oppo Taco down the right field line early in the game, solo homer. They also had Ethan Fry. I think probably, in my book, was an inside-the-park home run there in the 8th inning. They gave him a triple with an error. I mean, the center fielder, he kind of misplayed the ball, but that's more of just a funny hop off the wall. Like, to me, I'd give that an inside-the-park.
I would have ruled the rule of cool, Zach. I would have given it an inside-the-park.
100%.
The rule of cool should have been
Reed's rule of cool. There. You got to follow it.
Yeah.
No, but they gave him a triple. Ethan Fry had a double and a triple, actually. He scored 3 runs, 2 RBIs. Stephen Milam scored 4 runs. He was 2 for 2. Stanfield finished 3 for 4. He had the homer and 3 RBIs. But more than anything else, LSU they'll grind your pitching staff down. They'll take a lot of pitches. And we'll talk about going into tomorrow, but they left DBU in a pickle with their pitching staff too. They got the starter out of there early tonight, and then DBU, which used, of course, its top starter last night against Rhode Island, had to also use its number 3 starter. I don't think they had to, but they did. And now they've burned all 3 of their top starters. So we can get into the pitching situation tomorrow, but they'll grind you down. They don't hit for a ton of power. Like LSU had 10 hits tonight. They scored 12 runs on just 10 hits. They had the 3 extra base hits. They had 1 double, 1 triple, 1 homer, and the rest were singles. But they had 12 free passes, 7 walks, 5 hit batters. They were, I think, 5 for 15 with runners in scoring position, so some clutch hitting. Mm-hmm. And that's just what they do. They just kind of grind you down.
Those numbers don't blow you away, but, you and Koki have talked about it all season. That may be all LSU really needs in a super regional, in a regional like this to get back to Omaha, because the pitching on the first 2 nights will be so good. You can always count on that being really elite and holding down another team's offense. So, you don't need a ton of home runs. You don't need a ton of extra base hits. You just need to get on base and you need to put runners in scoring position and then move those runners home. So, the offense has been up and down. Y'all talked about it on the podcast, but, if they can get just like a baseline of consistency, a baseline of productivity, then they should have everything they need to get through a super regional at home, given the way that their pitchers are throwing right now.
Yeah, you don't, and the other part of that is, they've taken the lead so early in both of these games. They've scored in the bottom of the first inning both nights. And when the pitching is so good and you have runners on base in every inning, I don't think anybody goes up there feeling a tremendous amount of pressure, like this is our opportunity, got to score right here, or this game, is not going to go well. You're going to have opportunities with this offense with the way that they've got some high on base guys at top of the order. Even at the bottom of the order, those guys get on base. They move runners. They steal runs with the first and third play. They did that tonight. I mean, we just kind of see them manufacture runs and support a pitching staff that like, quite frankly, Reed, like I think, I don't want to use the word spoiled. Although LSU baseball fans, you probably could say that you're spoiled because this is the best baseball program in the country, has been for a long time. But just having Paul Skeens 2 years ago, I think skews your perception of how good Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson have been. Are they Paul Skeens? No, they're not Paul Skeens. They're not going to strike out 200 guys this year. But Cade Anderson's up to 156. He gets, at least 1 more start next weekend if LSU comes out of this regional. If they get to Omaha, he'll have at least 2 more starts, maybe 3. Like, he could get up to 180 strikeouts. He could have one of the best collegiate seasons of all time.
And he's projected as a top 5 pick in the draft right now. Yeah. He's really, really special, And think about that 23 run. LSU had Paul Skeens and Ty Floyd. Ty Floyd didn't come on really play at his best until later in the season, and that's really when LSU needed it. It reminds me a lot of what LSU has right now between Cade and Anthony Ianson, who was awesome last night. So it's that 1-2 punch that's going to get LSU through a lot of tough games.
And the best part about this for Jay, I think, and for LSU, as we go into tomorrow, and you get Dallas Baptist facing Little Rock at 2:00. The winner of that game gets LSU at 8:00, and they got to beat them twice. They'd have to beat them tomorrow night, and then in a game Monday, time to be announced. But that the game 7 of the regional would be Monday, only if the DBU Little Rock winner can beat LSU tomorrow night. Well, what does LSU have? Okay, so you mentioned it. Ianson and Anderson combined for 14 and 2/3 innings. They only needed the bullpen to cover, was that leave 3 1/3 innings over the past 2 nights. DJ Primo pitched both nights. Probably you wouldn't think he'll pitch again tomorrow. But outside of that, they have everybody. They have the law firm of Cowan and Evans. They have
Shores.
They have Chase Shores. They have Jaden Newt. I mean, they can throw a bunch of different guys at whoever emerges from that 2:00 game tomorrow. And, we talk about DBU, like, they used all 3 of their weekend starters.
Yeah, Koki really made a point at the start of the season to note how LSU's pitching depth had improved considerably from last season. And I think we're seeing the effects of that right now, particularly when you're imagining how Jay Johnson's going to approach the game tomorrow. Say he starts Case and Evans, and then Case and Evans throws 3-4 innings, and then Zach Cowan comes in behind him. And if you need one more pitcher, you've got Chase Shores, who's 6'8", throwing 98, 99 coming at you for another couple innings to close it out. So, he has options, plenty to get him through 2 games, but it doesn't look like that they're going to need 2 games. It looks like tomorrow is going to be a relatively easy one, barring something unexpected. So LSU has the pitching depth that it needs, not only to get to Omaha, but maybe make a long run there.
Yeah, I mean, like, again, not going to use the word spoiled. I'm going to use the word your perspective can get skewed. But look around the country. Vanderbilt lost tonight to Louisville. Texas, I don't know how it finished. They were down 9-7 going to the bottom of the ninth.
I think they're still in the bottom of the ninth right now.
Yeah, so those are your top 2 national seeds. Oregon was the number 1 seed. They're already out. Southern Miss is facing elimination. Oregon State's facing elimination. Like a bunch of these teams, even some of the teams that survived, had to do it in pretty dramatic fashion. Where there's other teams that have cruised. Arkansas's cruised through its 2 games. North Carolina's cruised through its 2 games. But LSU doing what it's done and saving all the pitching. Like you said, Jay Johnson has so many options that he can go Cowan and Evans tomorrow for as long as those 2 take you, and then just keep Shores and say Jaden Newt in relief in case you need him on Monday. Mm-hmm. You could start Shores and then just have him go 3-4 innings, follow up with Cowan and Evans and see where that takes you. Like, honestly, his biggest conundrum right now might be, do I want guys to not pitch at all this weekend? Do I need to try to get everybody at least a little bit of work?
I think we do see Evans and Cowan tomorrow, because if you remember, they did not pitch in Hoover last weekend.
Right. So that would be 2 weeks.
So they haven't thrown since the last weekend of the regular season. So I'd imagine Jay wants to get both of them some work tomorrow. So that might be all you need to get through tomorrow's game. I would expect to see both of them. Maybe they bring in a 3rd or a 4th guy, depending on the score, but you want to have them ready for a super next week. You don't want them going into that series with too long of a layoff in between starts or appearances.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think, you could see a little bit of rust, guys who haven't pitched in 2 weeks. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of hope for DBU or Little Rock. But ultimately, those are 2, firemen. Those are your ace relievers. And LSU's got both of them. Both can go multiple innings. And as you said, you've got Chase Shores waiting in the wings. You've got Jaden Newt. You've got some of these other guys who have pitched a little bit this weekend, Maverick Rizzi, but he could go again. I mean, like, basically you have a full deck of cards if you're Jay Johnson.
And how, the biggest question, I think, is how consistent can the offense be? We've seen it show up. We've seen it disappear at times. LSU is capable of having big offensive days, especially when you look at the heart of the lineup, when you have Danny Dickinson, who had 2 homers yesterday, when you've got Jared Jones, who hasn't done a ton so far this weekend, but we all know what kind of hitter he is. And then Ethan Fry behind him, who's really come on as of late. He had another he was the one who had the inside the park home run tonight. I believe he had 2 hits.
Got a double and a triple.
Yeah, so he's coming on. He can hit for power. So the heart of that lineup is really, I think, what LSU it's really an X factor. It's really what they need to maybe get over that extra hump, that thing that could be separating them from just a quick one and done trip to Omaha or something deeper and something more.
Yeah. Strange things can happen. I mean, look, like, teams can get momentum. Little Rock is obviously seeing the ball well after scoring 22 runs off of Rhode Island. I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see them take out DBU tomorrow, just because of the way they're hitting. And as I said, DBU's down to kind of its 4th and 5th pitchers. So, I don't know what Little Rock's, obviously they're not a great pitching team. They gave up 10 runs today, even, and would have been more if the never seen a baseball game end that way. Rhode Island kid misses first base on the final play of the game, and they review it and call him out.
It was pretty anticlimactic. They were putting together, it's kind of a scary bottom of the ninth there.
Yeah, it would have been pretty funny. But like, even with strange things happening, it's hard to imagine a scenario where LSU doesn't get this done this weekend and move into the Super Regional. And by the way, speaking of the Super Regional, Clemson lost.
Yep,
another number 1 seed that lost. They lost to West Virginia tonight, 9-6. And so now Clemson's got to win 3 games in a row. They have to beat Kentucky in an elimination game early tomorrow. Then they have to turn around and beat West Virginia twice, or it could be WVU coming in here, which is coincidental because that would have been the team LSU would have played in the Super Regionals last year had they finished off North Carolina in Chapel Hill.
Yep. Really interesting to see how that shook out. And when you think about the teams that are playing across the country, the teams that are playing in Clemson right now, LSU, if it wins and takes care of business tomorrow, it's going to have the rest advantage going into the Super Regional, because think about that other team. Say it's Clemson, right? And they play on Monday. They say they storm back and win the series on Monday. Then they've got a travel day to Baton Rouge on Wednesday probably. So it's going to be a quick turnaround for them, and then they'll be coming and playing a refreshed LSU team. So the path was pretty clear before the tournament started, and through first 2 days, I don't think LSU could have asked for a much better start. Not only what happened in their own ballpark, but also what happened across the country.
And no doubt about it. In the super regionals, I honestly don't know. I think it's just TV says which ones they want to start on Thursday and which on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the NCAA would step in and say, hey, if a team played on Monday, let's give them a Friday super. But you could even have that thing starting on Thursday next weekend, which would be even, then you're really only looking at 2 days rest for whoever survives a regional that goes all the way through Monday. So interesting stuff. Again, and LSU, by the way, has never played West Virginia in baseball. They've never played Clemson in baseball.
Is that right?
Yeah, obviously they played Kentucky dozens of times, almost 100 times, I think. So that would be the one. They played them in the Super Regional here 2 years ago. So that would be, an SEC matchup. But if West Virginia or Clemson is the team that comes out, it would be a first-time matchup here at the box. So that'll be interesting. And we'll be here to cover it all. You're watching the LSU Insider postgame show. We're going to give Scott Rabelais another 5 minutes or so to come give his take. If not, we'll just call it a night read because it's late. But we are brought to you by Our Lady of the Lake Health. They are the official championship healthcare provider of LSU athletics. And I'll say this, Reed. I think one underrated part about this offense is just how it's every inning. LSU's had 16 innings at the plate in this regional, right? They didn't bat in the 9th inning either night. I think they've had 5 scoreless frames and maybe 3 1-2-3 frames. I know they only had 2 scoreless frames tonight. The 4th was a 1-2-3 inning. Then they had another one like in the 7th, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And then against Little Rock, they had a couple of 1-2-3 innings. But like every inning, there's traffic. Here comes Rab.
There he is.
He's walking down the concourse, giving us a wave. And every inning, there's runners on base. Even if the pitcher gets through, he's throwing 15 or 20 pitches in a clean inning. Those pitch counts go up. Like, this is a team that if you're Dallas Baptist, for instance, and you came in here with designs on winning this regional, this is a disaster because now you've got to go beat this team without your pitching, beat them twice. LSU's got all of its pitching. I mean, this is a tall order.
Yeah, before I hand the mic off to Rab here, just want to make a quick point that we haven't seen a whole lot from Jared Jones yet this weekend, only 1 hit. And however many appearances he's had, I'd have to add it up. So if they get anything from him, then the offense could just take another step, and then it could get even better. So, it's still got room to improve as well.
Maybe next weekend is Jared's weekend. We don't know. So
maybe.
All right, Reed Darcy, thank you for joining us, and he's going to hand off to Scott Rabelais as we roll on here on the LSU Sports Insider postgame show live from Alec Box Stadium. Rab, we've kind of gone through this one backward and forward, but I started with this with Reed, and I'll start with you too. If Jay Johnson could have scripted the way this regional went, this is pretty darn close to what he would have come up with.
Yeah, they've. I think they scored in 6 of the 8 innings they batted in both the games. They've gotten their 2 starters who were, as everybody says, are 2 of the best starters, maybe the best starting combo in the country to go deep into both games. So they've conserved the bullpen as much as they would like to do going into Sunday's regional final if you have to play 2 games or not. So they've got a lot of pitchers to use. They haven't made any errors. They're just doing everything really well. It's when they lost to Ole Miss in the SEC tournament, you're like, and played a close game with Texas A&M, you're like, well, where are they coming into the NCAA tournament? But I think as we've seen, it's the SEC is really tough, and you come to play different. It's like a breath of fresh air to come and play somebody different. Not saying Dallas Baptist is not good; they've won 41 games this year, so they're a good team. But it speaks. The margin of victory speaks to how well I think LSU is performing at a high level in lots of ways. He was just leaving the press conference with Jay Johnson. There wasn't a lot that he could say that he wasn't pleased about.
Yeah. Now, obviously, they have this 1-2 punch, and I'm curious to your perspective on this from almost a historical context. Paul Skeens was at LSU just 2 years ago and blew every record out of the water. We've seen what he's doing in the big leagues already with the Pirates. I mean, he's spectacular. I think that skewed the perspective of LSU fans and maybe the media a little bit too.
Sure.
Because what Ianson and Anderson are doing this year is historic in its own right. And I think there's almost Skeens is too fresh, and you're like, oh, well, they're not Skeens. No, but I mean, we've hardly ever seen 2 guys do what they're doing before.
No, it's in the past you've had a NOLA pitching for you, or a Lang, or going way back, Ben McDonald or a Scott Schultz or something like that, or one of these guys he's mentioned with. He's not tied for 6th in strikeouts with Russ Springer and Eddie Yarnall, but a 1-2 combination. And you're like, who do you say? Okay, you say Cade Anderson. He's typically the Friday night starter. Of course, he started the second game of this regional. they're kind of 1 and 1A at this point in my mind, and I had a little theory that surprisingly Cookie Riley did not shoot down our beat writer, that they started Ianson in the first game because he maybe lately has shown a little bit more propensity to be able to go deeper into the game, and then you've got more of your bullpen to work for you in this game with the tougher opponent that you expected to play in Dallas Baptist. So, but anyway, it's kind of pick your poison at this point. Can I tell a quick funny story? Ryan Terrio, who's from here, he played for LSU, of course. He played in pro ball with the Little Rock coach. He went to their practice the other day. We were saying on the radio, and he said, "Who do you think they're going to pitch?" He said, "Does it matter? You're going to get the guy who strikes out 20 or the guy who can strike out 20." So, and it hasn't been quite that, but I mean they've been super impressive to start, and it's however you want to arrange it. And then, in a super regional format where you're trying to win 2 and get it done, they give you a great chance to do that when you get there.
Yeah, and they've got to win one more. But again, this is set up about as well as it could possibly be. Dallas Baptist has used all 3 of its weekend starters. I'm not counting out Little Rock. I think they could easily win that game. They don't have a lot of pitching depth either. Right? They gave up 10 runs today, even in a win.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, LSU's still got Zach Cowan. They've got Cason Evans. They've got Jaden Newt. They've got Chase Shores. I mean, they have more than enough pitching, certainly to get through one game. And then even if they need to worry about Monday, they've got pitching for that too.
Yeah, he said he threw William Schmidt in the 9th inning. He said he's missed like his last midweek start because they've had weather issues. And he thought he looked pretty sharp. He ended up striking out the side. He threw a lot of pitches, but he did the job. You got there and he finished the game. So yeah, they're in plenty good shape for that. And I would say the only thing I think I heard Reed mention it, the only thing that gives you any kind of pause really is that Jared Jones just doesn't seem to be seeing the ball well in this regional. Only 1 hit so far. But that can turn around very quickly. Obviously, he's a very talented, capable player, and that can change very quickly. But I mean, just trying to think of something that you say, well, it's not going perfectly or all cylinders for LSU, but that's about it.
I mean, I don't know if it's obvious who you'd say LSU's best hitters have been this season. I assume you say Jared Jones and Derek Curiel. Neither one of them's been unstoppable or anything in this series. And so if you can dominate a regional without those 2 guys, you feel pretty good about going forward into the super regional, whether it's Clemson, West Virginia, Kentucky, whoever it is, coming in here next weekend and then into Omaha.
Yeah, I was looking up the stats to see that if this was indeed the first time LSU has posted back-to-back shutouts to begin a regional or super regional, and it is. Back in 2000, they beat Jackson State 19-1 and ULM 21-0. So that was 40-1 in 2 games. And that team went on to win the national championship. I don't see this team capable of doing that. Really, just being that. Just
you don't mean that they're not capable of winning the national championship?
No,
they're not going to score 40 runs.
Yeah, 40 runs in 2 NCAA tournament games. No, I just don't. I don't see that. But they just seem like they're going to put you down and keep you down. I think the MO on Houston Dallas Baptist rather was that. If you let them get a lead early in the game, you might have trouble getting it back. And obviously they got them down to the first inning and kept them down. And they're just been 2 very methodical, workman-like, just airtight games so far. I mean, like I said, there's not much that you point to that they're doing wrong, and they're just keeping so much pressure on the other team, inning after inning after inning. They're not likely. They don't seem as likely to have the 7-run inning like we saw Little Rock have today against in their game with Rhode Island. Late in the game. They don't seem as likely to do that, but just 2 runs here and 1 run there, and then another run, then a 3-run inning. That seems to be their MO, and that's a great recipe for success.
Certainly, nothing wrong with that. We will see if tomorrow LSU can go 3 for 3. We will see if there's any more drama. I'm sure Jay Johnson would be fine if there wasn't. But we will be here either way for a post-game show tomorrow, right here on these same LSU Sports Insider podcast channels. My thanks to Reed Darcy for stopping by. He's Scott Rabelais. I'm Zach Ewing. We're going to say goodnight, and we will be back tomorrow on the LSU Sports Insider. And by the way, we have no producer. I'm actually going to walk off the set and end the recording while Rab smiles at you. So that's how we're going to end this thing. Be back tomorrow night.
Thanks, Zach.